So this is how I trim a competition brisket for a hot and fast cook on my Gateway drum smoker. I want to trim off the gray meat here. I just don't find it appetizing. Now at this point, I'm going to be following the seam down that'll separate the point from the flat. Today with our cook, we're going to separate it because they are two different muscles. The grain on the flat runs this direction, and the grain on the point, the fattier side, runs this way. So we cook them hot and fast. They're two different muscles. We want to make sure each one's cooked properly. All right, at this point, we're getting down to the area where the point muscle gets really thin, and we want to save some of that meat on the back side of the flat to help protect it for this hot and fast cook. So I'm just going to make a cut down and separate the two muscles. So there is a near competition trimmed brisket point. Since we're going to be eating this, I'm not worried about presentation, so I want to make sure I maximize a lot of the meat. If this is for competition, this piece of meat would be one thickness all the way across, and I'd be looking to make my burnt ends out of this area right up in here. All right, but for today, for eating purposes, this is going to be good. I want to take a little bit of this silver skin off the top. Don't want to gouge into the meat, so I'm going to lift it up and just run my knife across the top of it to remove it. A lot of this is going to cook off in a hot and fast cook, especially in a Gateway, but I want the rub to stick. So we're just going to use some knife skills. And for today's purposes, that's a decent trim on the brisket flat. If this was competition, this would be sized down for approximately the same size as the box. I'd be looking at taking my slices out of this area right here, right where the flat and the point overlay each other. That's where I'd take my slices. The rest of this would just be what I call commodity meat. We would eat it. But for today, this is going to be good. Next thing we're going to do is inject it. Okay, one kind of pro trick is where the meat got a little thin. I did save some of the fat cap. You notice the way I was slicing it, I sliced it off thick. Where the meat's thin, I want to protect that. So I'm going to cook it just like that. Once again, after the cook's over, all of this fat comes off anyway, so it doesn't matter. Next step, injection. Today we'll be using Kosmos Q injections, the Reserve Blend beef injection. We're also mixing in some Moisture Magic with 2 cups of water. Give it some flavor and help it retain moisture. We're going to inject a few times on the flat and the point, and just show you how that's done. So I put the needle in, inject, pull the needle out while I'm injecting, and hopefully don't spray injection all over the kitchen. You'll notice I cover up the hole when I pull the needle out. Big debate on how to inject. You inject with the grain, you inject across the grain? Do you horizontally, vertically? Look, I just want to get injection in. You want it in as much as you can. You want it in uniform. So have at it. You can probably get 2 cups in this one brisket. Today I'm using Eat Barbecue, most powerful stuff, great brisket rub. And there it is. It's rubbed down. If this was a competition cook, I'd be going around the edges, making sure every edge has rub on it. But today, this is good. We're going to be smoking this brisket in one of my Gateway drum smokers. I like cleaning the smoker after competition, so the drum's clean. Just recently picked up the Gateway drum tool. Pretty cool tool. All right, so the fire basket is loaded with B&B Oak Lump charcoal. I have a couple chunks of hickory buried in the charcoal pile. I'm going to light it with a lighter cube. We're going to put it in the drum, get the drum going. Maybe. There we go. It's always important to have extra lighters. So the brisket smoked for a total of about 2.5 hours or so. I'm happy with the color, nice mahogany red. At this point, it probably temps out about 158, maybe 160 degrees. And we're ready to wrap it with some beef consomme and put it back in the smoker to finish it off. Remember, we cook for color, and then we wrap and continue to cook for tenderness and final. Briskets have been wrapped with beef consomme, put back in the Gateway drum smoker. We got to get the lid back on, keep the fire under control. Got the vents readjusted. We're just about 325 or so on the needle. That temperature will come down to where I need it. One thing really nice about the Gateway drums is once you know where 300 is at on the vents, very seldom do you have to make a big adjustment. I put a ThermalWorks dot in the smoker. It's in the flat. You can see it's 176 degrees. So we're going to roll this for probably another hour and a half or so. And at that point, we should be about ready to check for doneness. Right, this is the final product of a hot and fast brisket cook on this USDA Prime brisket. We have the point here and the flat here. We're gonna cut a little bit off the point and then slice off a little bit of meat on the flat. This would be traditionally where burnt ends are made. It's from here. This is a big, thick slice, but quality control. Yeah, that'll work. That's really, really good. All right, I'm gonna do just a slice test through the middle of the flat. Right there, a little pull test, snaps apart, just a little bit of give to it. That is fantastic. Real happy. Nice little smoke ring. So at this point, we're going to take the au jus that came out of the foil packaging, season up the au jus to rehydrate the brisket. So this is it. Part-time barbecue, hot and fast brisket cook in a Gateway drum smoker.